Okay, welcome back to the second part of our podcast special. We're talking about atmosphere, and we're joined this evening by Raymond from REDaction Gooners. How are you, Ray?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me on this Liverpool podcast.
You can thank Nordi for that. We're joined also. He's just joining also Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV. We've got Moh.
How's it going, guys?
Nordi from Black Scarf Movement.
Hiya.
Great. All right. So let's get stuck into it. I want to ask. I'm going to start with you, Ray, as you're the newbie on the show. There's been a lot of talk about the atmosphere at the home games and how sterile and lacking in passion it can be, especially when you compare the home fans to the away fans. Obviously, there are some mitigating factors towards that. Like, the stewards allow the away fans to stand and sing and so on and so forth. But I want to ask you, as you liaise with the club, what kind of initiatives are you looking to share to put in place within the Emirates Stadium to generate that kind of atmosphere and allow the fans the freedom to enjoy the atmosphere, especially also what kind of innovative initiatives are being undertaken to improve the atmosphere?
Well, first of all, I'd say that REDaction's been going for nearly 10 seasons now, and I think in the last couple of seasons we have kind of had a bit of a change of tack and changing our output and our kind of objectives a little bit to move away from trying to get people to sing certain things and circulating new chants and stuff, because we found that very, very difficult with telling Arsenal fans what to sing and when to sing it. So really, REDaction in the last couple of seasons have moved a bit more towards the visual side of fan coordinated displays, a lot of banners. The new giant 49 flag is new for this season, and also coming up pretty soon is the car display for the Bayern Munich match. So really, there's been a definite change in our angle. And we think it's something that hopefully we can have more success with as opposed to, trying to get people to sing certain things at certain times.
Can I ask you, you said you're moving away from, directing what people should chant. Was that your own, when you initially came up with that initiative 10 seasons ago, was that your own initiative, or was that in conjunction with what the club did the club have an input as to what songs or terrace chants you could sing, or what they approved of and what wasn't approved of?
No, absolutely not. I mean, we have been criticised in the past by being for supposedly being too close to the club, and obviously when you get started in this kind of things and you're getting off the ground and you have to build relationships and stuff like that, just so that you can get a certain amount of trust in there and that you can you can build a relationship so they're going to actually let you do things within their stadium. But as far as content control of chants, that might be happening in the ground on a Saturday or a Wednesday evening. I mean, absolutely not, no.
Okay, Robbie, I want to bring you in because you're a regular there. You interview fans before and after the games. What's your opinion? What's your take on the atmosphere within the ground?
Well, the atmosphere, it can be very flat. I mean, it can be very good. When when there's a big game on, the fans are up for it. Tottenham's and Manchester United's, Liverpool's, those sort of games, you ain't got to get the fans going. But on other games where the fans sort of turn up with an expectation that, Arsenal are supposed to turn the team over, the atmosphere can be pretty quiet unless the team scores, etc. So the atmosphere definitely needs to improve. And then you've also got things like fans leaving too early, leaving before the game ends. There's a lot of problems with regards to atmosphere at the Emirates. The other day I was sitting in the upper tier and I couldn't believe how sterile the upper tier was. There are a lot of problems, I think, connected with atmosphere, and a lot of fans complain about it. In fact, fans constantly complain about it. And I know the REDaction guys are, they're doing their best. They're doing a great job, and it's a very difficult job. And I saw the other day, even on Twitter, they was having a Twitter conversation, and I saw where the REDaction guys were saying that they once had a person in doing a drum who had a drum to get people going, because some people were saying, why don't we have a drummer like what Crystal Palace had? And I was laughing when they said that the person who did the drum got so much abuse that they actually gave their season ticket back and didn't come back. So I think, Arsenal fans, the Arsenal fans at home can be hard work.
But they're always looking for someone else to blame, I think. You know, it's like there's too many tourists in the ground, too many upper class people sitting in club level and all that kind of stuff. But the only people that didn't change the atmosphere are the people who are sitting in the ground. So if people are sitting there, sitting on their hands, saying to the bloke next to them, the atmosphere's rubbish today, isn't it? They're part of the problem as far as I'm concerned. Either you want to get involved and take some responsibility and let's go about changing this atmosphere, or, you're part of the problem.
The only thing I'd say is that, why are the REDaction guys pushed right into the corner down there? Why are they not more central, say behind the goal, in the North Bank? And also, why have we not got, say, a singing section behind the goal in the clock end?
But this is it.
But then I don't know, that's what I'm very interested to hear tonight from REDaction, to find out the intricacies of the whole thing, because we definitely need to do something to try and improve the atmosphere. I mean, I went to Crystal Palace earlier on in the season and I was really impressed with the way they get the place going. I know it's a smaller club and it's always a bit easier when it's a smaller club. But I was impressed the way they got the atmosphere going. And then when they came to our place, again, I was very impressed with the way, with the person on the drum and the organised singing. And I don't know, maybe there needs to be some sort of big debate on this whole subject, like what you're doing now, and a sort of call to action, because the REDaction guys ain't going to be able to do it on their own. And like they're saying, it's going to need all fans to get together with this one, and the club as well.
Yep, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. People got to take responsibility. If they're in there moaning about the atmosphere, then you're in there. You're in the only place that you're going to be able to do anything about it. And just talking a little bit more about REDaction, I just feel it's always important to remind people that REDaction consists of 6 individuals. There's this thing about the REDaction section in Block 6 in the stadium, and people think that they're all somehow affiliated with REDaction, and we tell them what to do and what time to get in there and what to sing and all that kind of stuff. Couldn't be further from the truth. They might be in that corner of the stadium. And then going back to Robbie's point there about the setup back in 2006, when we approached the club saying, look, you're starting the new stadium with a blank sheet of paper. We want to try and get all the vocal fans into one area. That was the area that was allocated. We're perfectly happy with that at the time. Obviously, things have moved on since, and you think about moving it to the clock end or moving it to behind the goal or whatever. But I think that opportunity is gone, to be honest. So I think we're not going to really make any progress on that. What we need is 60,000 people in the stadium every week. People have got to be getting involved and making a difference.
Can you just clarify how many people you said are part of REDaction? I don't know if I heard that correctly.
6 people.
I'm shocked by that.
That is unbelievable.
No, that's it. I mean, it's one of those things about, people want to get involved. I mean, you guys are all quite big on Twitter, and you'll see that before every home match day recently, we're absolutely hammering tweets saying that we need people to come and help us with this massive flag. Because, out of those 6, there's one bloke who can't make it that day or whatever, or he might have been running late, and we're desperate for pairs of hands for people to come and give us a hand with this 15-metre square flag, because there's only 6 of us, and, all the time people are always replying, oh yeah, mate, I'll be there, we'll come and help you out and all that, and we get down to it, and there's the same old faces. There's 4 or 5 of the REDaction guys, and then a couple of guys that we know. The guy designed the flag, and his brother and a few other people like that who come along, but you just can't get people to get involved. Unfortunately, one of the real...
I'm in Block 7. I was out of the country against Palace, but I absolutely guarantee you I'll be there next time.
That's one person for every 10,000 fans.
Shocking.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's shocking. It's shocking. It is absolutely shocking.
I've got to say, first of all, I admire these guys, the REDaction guys, and I do sometimes see them getting some unfair flack, almost as if people are relying on them and saying, "Hey, hold on, how comes you ain't got the place jumping?"
Well, that's it.
But that you've just put it into perspective for me. There's 6 guys.
Nordi, I want to bring you in.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, I think they do a great job, and if we didn't have REDaction, can you imagine that it'd be a nightmare there? So yeah, I think they do a great job. But you know, these big games, little games, it used to happen in Highbury when it was standing. To be quite honest with you, it goes back a long time. But for me personally, I noticed that the stewards tend to leave the fans alone for the big games.
That's true.
The fans are up for it, they're standing, and I don't see much going on with the stewards. But when it's like the smaller teams, all I see them is up and down, telling people to sit down. So there seems to be a club problem with big games and smaller games, so that probably doesn't help. And when we say 60,000, let's forget that, because the upper tiers, you know, and the club level, we know they're not going to create an atmosphere. There might be a few hundred, but it's just lower tiers, isn't it?
Well, I see what you're saying there, Nordi, about club level and stuff like that. I mean, there is that stat for last season where there's 600 season ticket holders in club level, and they turned up once. Tickets got used once last season. So, you know, this is part of the problem. These people are Arsenal fans or they're not, you know.
They're not. I mean, I know personally, I mean, I think, like, his name's Terry, he's a Charlton supporter, he's got 8 season tickets. He owns a big company, and he gives them out to, you know, like, for jolly up for any of his staff and clients. So I asked him how many people are Arsenal supporters. He said, I don't know, you know, not many. So, you know, you're always going to get this when you're selling tickets. Goes back to the pricing. When you're selling tickets to corporates and higher pricing, you're going to get that. So we have to concentrate on the lower tier fans who turn up, who are there most weeks, and we've got to try and get them to create an atmosphere. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I think they're going to be up for it.
Not with that attitude, it won't.
No, well, I know, I understand. You've been working on it for quite some time, but I think we actually need to do something like outside. I know you probably think it's not going to happen, but you know, like Robbie's just mentioned about the clock end. I mean, I think there is some interaction going on at the moment, but I think we actually need to help it, like increase it and go to the club. I mean, we've suggested this season ticket light in the clock end, where we can sort of attract your younger fan, your fan that goes away games, the other ones that are plotted around in different areas of, you know, different blocks who are not part of REDaction. They're stranded on their own, and they just feel embarrassed to get up and carry on singing. So, you know, like, if we planned it with the club and try to get this season ticket light next to the away supporters, and it will only be for the league games because they get kicked out for the cup matches, and try to make a second singing section, so that the lads from REDaction can just interact with, you know, like the old days with the North Bank and Clock End, and we might have to force it a little bit, because I just can't see some of these. I mean, I've been a few times, and, you know, I've tried myself, and it's quite, you've got stewards telling you to sit down, you've got other people telling you to shut up and sit down, and it really is difficult.
I was going to ask the question because, you know, obviously there's an individual responsibility on the fan to sort of generate an atmosphere themselves. But when, like Nordi just said, when you've got the stewards who are probably being told from up on high to deal with that fan or deal with that section of fans, you know, I was sitting in the East Lower for the Everton game, and, you know, every 10 seconds there was like 2 or 3 stewards telling us to, oh, come on guys, sit down. You know, we was right next to the Everton fans, you know, they were giving us stick. You know, it's very difficult to generate an atmosphere when the club officials are very sort of strong or quite, you know, hard line on having you sit down. So I'd like to know what kind of initiative, what can we do, what other kind of tactics can be used.
Well, just on the stewarding aspect there, we're currently talking to the club because we have had a huge amount of negative feedback about stewarding. I mean, I'm in Block 6 in the North Bank end, and there's a couple of stewards there, and they're absolutely excellent stewards. They just let people get on with it, and they're just kind of hanging around in the background and just, you know, getting involved when they need to get involved. But they're, you know, it's like a good referee. You don't notice them really unless, you know, because they're doing a really good job. But we're talking to the club at the moment about all that negative feedback that's coming through, and we're just trying to get the official kind of contact, even if it's just an email address, if supporters want to make a complaint about stewarding behaviour, whether that be overzealous or inappropriate behaviour or whatever, or just being, you know, really unfair for, you know, for Arsenal fans. So stay tuned to the REDaction Twitter account. We're trying to get that information in the next couple of days, so that we can start getting supporters to log these problems are they particular stewards? Get a steward's number and just log it. It's all got to be the proper stuff. It's all got to be above board and say that, look, the steward is acting inappropriately or whatever. And we can get that raised with the club. And then, because we've got to keep highlighting this because the supporters are taking the brunt of this. So I think people have just got to get involved and communicate back the other way. And if the steward, if stadium management are getting all this negative feedback, at the end of the day,
they have to do something
it's
about
a PR game. They're going to have to ease off a bit. So once we get that information confirmed, anybody who's got a, genuine complaint about stewarding anywhere in the ground needs to get in touch with Arsenal and make that point, and then hopefully we can, meet them halfway or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, you do get some jobs worth, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. But, but there's a lot of Arsenal fans who are dickheads as well. So I wouldn't necessarily always put it on the blame of the stewards. I've seen some disgusting behaviour at that stadium from so-called Arsenal fans in the last couple of years. So I wouldn't put it all on the stewards, definitely not. So that's why I'm saying it needs to be a genuine, a genuine complaint, a genuine beef that you need to raise, and hopefully we can try and make things better.
I'm glad that you mentioned something. Sorry, shall I just say something? I just wanted to point out that, we're talking about Arsenal now. I've been to every other Premier League ground, and the atmosphere that you see at the Emirates is reflected in every other ground as well. If you go to Old Trafford, they're quiet there. You go to, all right, Liverpool game, their fans are really up for it. It's a massive game. But what I'm saying is, on the whole, you go away, all the away fans, all the Arsenal fans are stood up. They're all in one place. They're very, very vocal. They always seem to out-sing the home fans. Apart from, as I said, one of the only two places I've been this year where I thought that the home fans were excellent, right, which was Crystal Palace and also West Bromwich Albion. And in both of those grounds, they had organised areas right next to where the away fans were, where they were stood up. They weren't sitting down. They allowed them to stand up. And they had drums, and they were almost like they almost were sort of taken on this sort of ultra style of fans, like what they have abroad. Now, I just want to ask REDaction, do you think that's something that we need to adopt over here? That sort of, two sections like that in the Emirates Stadium. To, even if we get, because, people will follow the lead if you've got two sections of, say, a couple of thousand really vocal fans, and you had those sections and you actually said to people, even before they came into the ground, listen, if you stand in these sections, they're very noisy, they sing lots of songs, so if you like a quiet game, you need to go and sit somewhere else. Do you think that's the way forward? Or do you think that's something that could ever happen at the Emirates?
I don't think it's going to happen. And again, I think, we did a bit of an appeal last week saying, look, people need to give us your ideas. And the two things that people came back with were cheaper tickets, not going to happen, and moving a whole load of fans around, so all the vocal fans are together in the Emirates. And I don't think that's going to happen either, because it's just lockdown there. There's so many season ticket holders around. There's no way the club are going to rip everything up and start again with a blank sheet of paper.
But
just so a load of vocal fans are going to move around. I think, I've said it before, people have just got to make more noise. People who are in the ground have just got to get involved in the atmosphere. There's too many people in there sitting on their hands, not doing anything apart from moaning about how bad the atmosphere is. So whether you're in the upper tier, the lower tier, North Bank, Clock End, wherever, just get behind the team, make some noise. There's complaints about, fans who don't know the words to all the songs, but, everyone can stand up and shout, come on Arsenal, can't they? If 60,000 people did that, then it would be a very different place. So I think, again, it's people are looking for excuses, let's get all the vocal fans together and all this kind of stuff, but, there's still going to be, 50,000, silent people in there, so unless you're standing right next to that vocal crowd, it's still going to be, it's still going to be not loud enough. That's just the way I think. I think people just always looking for something to blame it on, be it expensive tickets or, the wrong type of fan in there, tourists, all that kind of stuff, people in the wrong part of the ground, all the other people, they just got to get involved in the atmosphere.
Mo, I want to bring you in.
Great. I just want to say that first thing, I'm glad that you mentioned that the stewards around where we sit, Block 6, Block 7, North Bank, lower sort of thing, are very, very good stewards. I was having a bit of friendly banter with one of them the other day, and I did actually say to him, this is at the last game against United, and I said to him that, you lot do a good job here, and we were talking about stewarding, and, we spoke about how the closer they get to the away fans, the more kind of complaints there seem to be from fans, and I think that is, it's obvious why that happened, because there's more chance of stuff kicking off closer to them. But there is a balance to be struck, and they need to strike it. In the North Bank, though, they're doing a great job. Elsewhere, maybe not. So I think it will be good for the fans to be able to do something about stewards that are a bit heavy-handed and actually have an avenue to go and report them in. Now, as for the general support and the general atmosphere around the stadium, I think Arsenal fans are very, very critical of ourselves, and rightly so. But it's something that is part of football throughout the country. I don't think English football support is what it used to be. I remember the first game I ever went to when I was 13 years old, North Bank Lower in Highbury, 13th of September 1997. Ian Wright broke the goal scoring record. For that game, I was a 13-year-old young Asian lad by myself in the ground, and when the first goal went in, this big, huge, bald guy in front of me turned around and gave me a hug, and I can't ever imagine that happening now. I think in my lifetime, English football support has got worse. And I think it's very crucial that we do something about it, because that's what you pay your money for that atmosphere. Me and Robbie have spoken for hours and hours and hours on the issue of atmosphere at home. And I and Robbie are in complete agreement that there has to be a singing section. That is the future. It's got to be behind the goal, a good number, and also in the clock end behind the goal, a good number. And once you're in an environment where you don't feel like you're sticking out like a sore thumb because you want to stand up, stretch your arms out and shout at the top of your voice, then other people will start joining in. But until you feel a bit insecure when you're getting up and shouting because you think people will look at you and think, what's wrong with that guy? It's not going to happen. And I have to admit, I feel like that from time to time.
I want to come in there. You've made the point. You've all made the point about the lack of atmosphere and how there has to be, as Robbie said, a call to action. You went in '97. My first game was '87 in the old Little Woods Cup against Everton semi-final, and I remember the atmosphere from that night, and it was manic. It was mad. It was hysterical. But over the years, since, if I chart my history from the '87 to the present day, over the years it's slow. There's been this slow. It seems to be the slow eradication of atmosphere, not only at Emirates but at Highbury. People tend to turn a blind eye to Highbury and say, oh, it was never the library. But I remember going to games at Highbury, and it was like a library. I don't know.
Always been the case.
Yeah.
It's been in our history. Chelsea used to be, in London, Chelsea used to be the loud boys. West Ham used to be a cracking ground. But when Highbury was loud, there was no other ground like it in London. So that's what we all sort of aim for and hope for and dream about and, remember. But, it's very difficult. I can understand REDaction. Ray's he can only work with what he's got. And, the people are there, make some noise, and we wouldn't have this conversation. But I think something needs to be pushed. And, maybe all of us get together and push the club on changing the attitude. Now, regarding Crystal Palace, just a quickie. South London used to be a big catchment area for Arsenal fans. A lot of our fans were from South London, Lewisham and sort of Streatham, Norwood, Croydon. All these places were big Arsenal fans, or Chelsea. They were the two teams. And I've been speaking to some of these Palace fans, and I've got family that part of the London. And what they're saying is that there's no way they could get in to watch Chelsea. There's no way they can get in to watch Arsenal. Crystal Palace, it's their local team. Their great-granddad watched them, but they've not really been into them, and their dads weren't into them. So what they've done, they can find tickets. I mean, you can get a family season ticket for £800 at Crystal Palace. So the club wanted their fans, the local fans, back, and they sort of said, okay, well then listen. Then they've got a young crowd. There's some of the ultras. They only sing for themselves, and everyone else joins in. Do you know what I mean? So that's why Crystal Palace at the moment, everyone's talking about them. Why they've got such a young, loud crowd. It's because they can't get into Chelsea and Arsenal.
But they're also having the time of their life at the moment, aren't they? First season in the Premier League for however long, and they're all full of enthusiasm for it. And they come along to Arsenal. We're playing Crystal Palace. Everyone's thinking we should roll this lot over, no problem. So the atmosphere's poor, and it's not the first time that Arsenal have been at home to a so-called smaller team, and the atmosphere has been flat. It's nothing new. The Palace fans come along and they're having the time of their life. It's their first time at Emirates. They're up in the Premier League. They've had a bit of a revival with their new manager and stuff. So, you know, they got their tails up. So, you know, if they're still in the Premier League in 3 years' time, do you think those set of fans are going to be the same? It's just the way that football goes. And with Arsenal fans at the moment, you know, the way things are, ticket prices are expensive, you know, we're still underachieving, and you've got all this kind of first world problem stuff that I just think if you're not an Arsenal fan, you don't really understand how we can be so grumpy about things sometimes, even though we're always in the top four and, you know, we've got this amazing stadium, and it's something that really only Arsenal fans understand. And then,
Ray, I wanted to ask you, Ray, what's the club's view on it? That's what has always intrigued me. Do they really care about the atmosphere?
I would say that certain people within the club do, but when you've got trying to get things done on match days, the big blocker is stadium management. So if you imagine going into work and you're working in stadium management for a match day, what you want is you want the easiest day possible, don't you? You want to, you know, everything to go smooth, nothing out of the ordinary. Let's get this day done and go home. So whenever you try and get something done in the ground, you know, and try and get a new initiative in and all that, it's all got to be cleared by stadium management, and then they come back and say, no, you can't do that. You can do this, but you can't do that. And, you know, it takes all the sting out of it. So certain people do, you know, Gazidis, I mean, to be fair to Gazidis, you know, he's pro all that stuff, you know, he signed a check for this car display next week. So, you know, and he's put his cards on the table before, but, you know, he's right at the top. And if you can actually get to him and say, look, this is what we want to do, which believe me, REDaction don't get the opportunity to do that very often. You know, he's happy to go ahead and do that, but you've got to jump through so many hoops before you get to him.
So how much was the car display? Can you tell us that? I have to ask.
I don't think I know the exact number, but what I will tell you that the flag display that we did for the Spurs Cup game, that was five grand. So basically getting the events team in to manage that, you know, get them in days beforehand, all the flags have to go in earlier, they all have to get verified, they all have to get safety checked and all that kind of stuff, which is all fine because that's the way of the world these days, you know, that's why we're so safe inside the football stadiums at the moment. Yeah. But with all those people and all those logistics and all the man hours spent on it, $5 grand basically for that.
And this is a much larger scale operation.
Well, every seat in the ground with hopefully with an Arsenal fan in it is going to have a card on it. So 60,000 cards need to be printed, produced, shipped, laid out on the seats, which obviously ain't going to be easy. There's a lot of manpower required there. They've got to get the design right, make sure every seat's got the right colour card on it, and all that kind of stuff. So it's not going to be cheap. Like, there ain't going to be any change out of probably 20 grand, I would imagine.
So well done, Ivan, on this one.
Yeah, absolutely, and well done to everyone. Well done to everyone so far. So it's up to now the supporters to make it work. So people have got to get in the ground against Bayern Munich, you know, before the teams come out of the tunnel. You know, you're looking around at the Man United game, and you know how many empty seats are there when the teams come out? 25,000, 30,000, maybe. So that's why we got to absolutely hammer it, and you've got to tell as many Arsenal fans as you know going to the game. You've got to get in your seat by 7:30. So the club are going to be promoting it really well. It's going to be in the programme. It's going to be on the website, and it's going to be on their Twitter feed. It's going to be on the TV screens. What they've agreed to today is they're going to turn off all the TV screens and all the concourses 10 minutes before the game starts and just say, get to your seat. So, you know, you can lead a horse to water and all that, but, you know, whether these supporters are going to want to do it and whether they're still going to be having that one extra drink in the pub down the road so that they can stroll in just as the referee blows his whistle, you know, and it's not going to work, and we're not going to be able to do this again because they're going to think, well, we just spunked 25 grand on something that didn't work because 2/3 of the supporters weren't in their seats. So, you know, people have got to get involved. Like I was saying earlier, you know, we've had a lot of good feedback about it so far, but, you know, if people ain't going to be in their seats, you know, to help us out because everybody's got a part to play for that, then, you know, it's going to be redundant. So, you know, Arsenal fans have got to kind of put their money where their mouth is. Everyone's moaning about the atmosphere. When's United's a chance to get involved?
What I will do...
It's a fantastic coordinated effort. Go on.
Quickly, what I will do, when I speak to Robbie after the game against Liverpool, I'll make sure that I reiterate that point, because, you know, AFTV does have a good reach. I'm sure Robbie will do it as well. I'll make sure that I'll remind people. Robbie, remind me, and hopefully you'll see that as well, you know, and that will get out on Twitter and all the social media. I mean, so,
not only that, I think it needs to be a coordinator. Have you asked, I know you were on the lines to another podcast earlier today, and they were going to plug this initiative that you've got going for Wednesday. Have you asked, I mean, you know, it's a matter of getting it out to as many people as possible, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a half-page advert in the new issue of the Gooner that comes out this Sunday. We are, the AST are going to help us promote it, ACE are going to help us promote it. The other boys at BSM, I was talking to Raj earlier today, he's going to, you know, they're going to give it a push for us, so everyone's got to get involved. We all support the same team. You know, all these little different organisations and all that. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing. So, you know, Wednesday night is our chance to just get a coordinated effort. Everybody's got to get together and everybody's got to make this work.
Do you think, Ray, if there was like a campaign, right, from fans or from like, you know, influential groups like AST, like Black Scarf and those guys and fans that went to and that's why I asked the question about the actual management there. If they're what's their views on the atmosphere? If there was a campaign where they said, listen, something needs to be done about this, we need some singing sections, etc. Do you think they'd listen to a campaign on it? Or is it that at the moment they're not bothering because nobody's not really saying much about it?
I'll just go back to what I said earlier about how difficult it's going to be to move everyone around, you know. So those people who've got season tickets behind the goal in the North Bank who just want to sit down, you know, what do you do with those guys? You know, what do you do with them?
People around to create that section for the
cup games.
Sorry?
No, but if you're talking about getting a section in North Bank behind the goal where there's season ticket holders in there, you know, you've got to move people who are not the right demographic, and obviously, you know, probably by their own admission they don't really make any noise or anything like that, but they've got a season ticket there, so.
Yeah, but then surely you could just quite easily say, listen, we're turning these into a singing section. If you want to remain, it's going to get noisy. If you don't, well, we're going to relocate you.
But then you're diluting the impact of the singing section then, because that guy who doesn't sing and his mate next to him and his mate next to him, they're right in the middle of the singing section. They're not singers. Therefore, you're diluting the impact of it. You know, I'm in block 6. I'm in the back row. Right in front of me, there's a bloke who's been standing in front of me for the past 8 seasons. Never makes a sound during a game. Even when we score a goal, never makes a sound. He comes in 1 minute past kickoff, folds his arms, leans back against his seat, and then when the game is over, he says cheerio to his mate and he walks out the door. You know, these are the problems that we've got. So, you know, this is block 6. This is supposedly the noisy section. So, you know, unfortunately, there's just too many people who are not contributing to the atmosphere. You know, moving people around and all that, reducing ticket prices, yeah, fantastic. That's the promised land. But for the next home game and the next home game after that.
No, I understand all what you're saying there, Ray, but I'm just trying to think for the future, right? That something has to happen. If it's going to be tackled in the right way, something has to happen. There has to be steps taken to improve the atmosphere, because I hear what you're saying, and guys are saying about Crystal Palace guys and stuff like that, but they've taken action. And when I went to West Brom and when I went to Swansea, they've taken action. They've said, right, we're going to try and get this place rowdy in these particular spots. I mean, I know obviously the logistics might be different because of the Emirates, a big place, and you know it'd be hard to move, but
it can be done.
I want to bring in Nordi. Go on, Nordi.
As far as I'm concerned, the clock end, I mean, I'm 100% with Ray. People have just got to get up and sing. So, again, I'll you know, I know I'm repeating myself, but, you know, if people did it, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the one place left, I believe, that can be dealt with is the clock end. Because that's where the silver and red members and young guns and family enclosures are. These are not regular. I mean, some of them are, you know, you might find the same face there each week, but a lot of them are come and go fans. You know, what games they can afford, what games they're available for. So this is the only place I believe where that can be implemented. You know, like movement of fans and making a singing area. So this is one. And reason why we mentioned it is like a season ticket lights, because once a cup match comes along, they've got to move. So, you know, you can't you want season ticket holders in there, so there's that togetherness. You want season ticket holders so there's the same faces each week, but, you know, obviously understanding it's only going to be for league matches only. So that's what I think should be done. It's the one place it can be done, and I would like the young guns to be next to this section so that you know, inject some youth and teach them some songs and just get that whole section going. And I believe just that and REDaction, and that's enough. If the rest will join in, if they don't, they don't. But that's enough to improve it by, I reckon, about 40-50% to what we're getting now. The other issue at Highbury, the bars at Highbury, I used to love drinking at Highbury. We used to, you know, you'd come out the pub earlier and go to Highbury to have another drink with your mates and before you take to your seat. If you watch any clips, you'll see that all the fans are out already on the seats when the players come out. But at the Emirates, it's like, I mean, I leave my pub at the very, very last minute. And some of my mates, they leave after kick-off.
Well, we're back to the same thing for Bayern Munich again, aren't we? Yeah, that's just the way it goes at the moment. That's the current culture. You know, people are saying, you know, people come to REDaction with ideas saying, you know, everyone should get in the ground early and, you know, we should be in there at 2:30 singing songs and stuff. And I say, it's a lovely romantic idea, mate, but, you know, it's not 1982 anymore. People aren't going to do that.
Sorry, the beer's piss poor, yeah? The food's fat.
That's what I'm saying.
It's for a reason.
There's no reason for you to get in the ground early. You can't even take a pint, you know, down to your seat or whatever. So, you know, all that before the game, building the atmosphere and all that, it's a lovely idea. In reality, it's not going to happen because the culture of the football fan has changed. We've got some fantastic boozers around the Emirates Stadium. You know, both sides, Finsbury Park side, Holloway Road side. You know, you can find some great boozers there. People are going to want to stay in there, have a nice pint, you know, with their mates, and then do the short 5-10 minute walk to the grounds at 2:45. You know, not at 1:55.
Why don't the club allow? I mean, I remember going in. I wasn't a North Bank. I used to be in the East Stand at Highbury. But I remember on the odd occasion I was going to North Bank. They used to have the bands in it on the concourse where you used to be able to drink. You used to get a good atmosphere going with the pre-match bands and getting people getting people whipped up into a good atmosphere. Why won't they allow that?
Because
I know the answer to that.
They don't make any money on the bars. It's not their bar anymore, is it? I mean, at Highbury, it was they were making quite a lot of money from that. So that's my answer. Maybe I'm wrong, but this has been contracted out to Delaware, isn't it? The contract.
So, you know, people talk about, you know, not another penny and all that apart from a match ticket. I'm not buying any pies or any beers or anything. None of that money goes to Arsenal. It all goes to Delaware. You know, they're contracted to Arsenal. They paid Arsenal basically to do their catering. So Arsenal not making any money out of that. You know, REDaction have done some promotions like that. You know, we've spoken to Delaware and we've got half-price pints, you know, for an hour before the game. I went in there one day with 100 vouchers for half-price pints. It was all promoted in the weekend coming up. I could not give them away. I had 60 vouchers left in my hand at kickoff time. So you cannot,
quality of beer.
You just cannot get people to get in there, and that's fine. And you know, I don't really have a problem with that. You know, the reality is once the game starts, that's when people need to be in their seats and get involved.
For me, I don't drink. For me, beer and support, I might be wrong, but they're not correlated. I don't drink, I support my team, I'm in there before kick-off, I never leave a game early, I always sing. I'm known to be one of the people in that block that is loud, that will try and get all the chants going. Sometimes I look like an idiot because no one will join me, but I don't drink, I don't need a good pie, I don't need a good pizza, I don't need anything to drink to do that. What's it got to do with it? Why can't you just support your team? There's a duty for us to be the 12th man. And I
understand what you're saying, Mo, but I think
you're in the minority.
Beer and football fans, mate, they go together like hand in glove, and that's the way it's been. You know, you look at some fixtures, you know, 5:30 kickoffs and, you know, big midweek games and stuff like that. You know, the atmosphere it's fueled by beer, it's fueled by alcohol. You know, that is the football fan. You know, there is definitely a relationship there.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying. I mean, I don't drink either, but I mean, you guys have been to Germany.
You guys should try.
You've been to Germany. That's why I'm teetotal, mate. That's why I've been teetotal for nearly 11 years. But, you know, going to Germany, you guys, I mean, you know, they're allowed to drink in the terraces. I mean, I'm not saying go to that extent, but definitely I can appreciate why there is that the relationship between beer and football. I think, but then again, you know, from the club side, you know, do you really want
But then you know what, right? I went to Dortmund, right? Brilliant. And, you know, of course, they're known for their famous atmosphere. But again, it's very organised. You know, and all the singing starts from that singing section and it resonates around the ground. So, and I think the German clubs, you know, they see it as important, that whole atmosphere factor, and they work with their fan groups to try and create atmosphere at the grounds.
I think you've got to take into account the difference in culture. You know, they love all that organised stuff and what to do and when to do it. You know, you tried it at Arsenal. Honestly, it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest,
trying to get people to do like that. And this German thing, I mean, I smiled there when you mentioned Germany, Robbie, because, you know, that is what we get at the moment. You know, we should be more like the Germans. We should be more like Dortmund fans. All right, mate. How do we do that? You know, how do you get everyone singing like that and all wearing red and chanting the same chant at the same time? Brilliant. How do we do that?
I personally love the singing of the English fans. How we will just make up spontaneous songs, the banter. That's what I love about English football fans, how we can just come up with spontaneous songs. But when I say the organised part of it, I just feel that sometimes if we're struggling with atmosphere, you need somebody just to lead people off. I'm not on about a constant, I mean, that does my head in even when I go to England games, the constant drumming all the way through the game. I'm not talking about that, but I'm just on about something to get people going, especially like we both identified that the atmosphere is worse when it's the sort of games where the fans turn up with an expectation that, you know, so for instance, when we played Crystal Palace, the expectation is by half time we're supposed to be about 3 goals up. And if we're not, you know, no one's going to be singing.
But that's not a problem exclusive to Arsenal, though. You know, don't forget that.
No,
you know,
not.
Crystal Palace, you know, Man United versus Crystal Palace, Chelsea versus Crystal Palace, Man City versus Crystal Palace. You know, you listen to those. It's a familiar problem for everybody. It's not, you know, Arsenal have got lots of problems with atmosphere. We're definitely not alone. You know, Man United fans, that they were trialling a singing section at Old Trafford last week, something that we were, you know, REDaction and really watching with interest, and how they were getting on with that. You know, it's not unique. You know, Spurs are basically about 10 years behind Arsenal as far as trying to tackle atmosphere problems that they've got. You know, we go to that ground once a season, and obviously, you know, the roof's nearly coming off because it's a great atmosphere, because it's a derby game. Believe me, it's not always like that. You know, it's not always like that. They've got similar problems, just like everyone else has.
I agree with you 100%, because as I said, I've been to all the away grounds, and, you know, a lot of times I'm in away grounds, right? Some of the away grounds that I've been, you know, you think to yourself, they're going to have a good atmosphere. Like, I remember I went to Sunderland and the place was absolutely dead. Only the Arsenal fans were singing. And then, you know, you see the Arsenal fans away from home. There's not many fans better than them. They're absolutely brilliant. Even last week, Moh will tell you, against Liverpool, even at 4-0 down, the Arsenal fans are still singing right till the end.
It's not in doubt. You know, everybody knows that. Everybody acknowledges that. You know, how do we get that atmosphere at home? And obviously, when you've got those 3,000 or 4,000 people, you know, and there is a lot of people in the away support who don't go to home games. You know, that you've got to take that into account. You know, how do you get that? How do you replicate that? Because there's not enough people getting involved.
I think Robbie's point is these Arsenal fans that do want to sing and do want a great atmosphere exist, and we know they exist because they've taken the decision to not bother with home games and focus their attention on away games, because that's where they meet like-minded people. So what me and Robbie are saying when we talk about that singing section, we're saying that because we've seen it exist, and there is that desire there.
But I think it can only be achieved with the club. I know that, you know, listen, and I admire you guys for what you guys are doing at REDaction, but I know that you're not going to be able to achieve nothing unless there's a will from the club to change that atmosphere, to try things, to let you guys, you know, just like they're letting you do this initiative next week. If the club said they're not up for it, then you can't make it happen. And it's what importance the club places on how good the atmosphere is at the Emirates, and that's what I'm really interested to know, what their emphasis is on it.
It's a bit of lip service, you know. They'll do the stuff that will suit them unless you really, really push for it. Look, I don't want to come across as negative, because the BSM have had this season ticket light on their agenda for a long time, and REDaction are 100% behind that. It's a really, really good idea. But what I'm saying is, you know, for the rest of the season, you know, we're stuck with what we've got, with people where they are on the ground with season tickets where they are. just more people have got to get involved. You know, people have just kind of, I know it's difficult, people have just tried not to be self-conscious when they're, you know, when they want to get up, when they're in a quiet block or they're in the upper tier and they want to get involved and start a chant and shout, come on Arsenal and all that kind of stuff. You know, people have just got to get away from that self-conscious thing and get involved and make the people who are being silent, make them feel like the awkward ones because they're not getting involved. That's the culture that we've got to change. There's this culture of, I'm going to sit here and be quiet and politely watch Arsenal while that yob over there shouts his head off. You know, it's got to change. The culture's got to change. People have just got to get involved in the atmosphere. I keep saying get involved. That is our new hashtag. Hashtag get involved because people just...
I'm going to hashtag that. I'm going to tweet that now.
That's what it's all about, you know. People are sitting there, like I say it all the time. You can sit there and say, atmosphere's shit today, ain't it, mate? Yeah, it is. So I'm just going to sit here and be quiet and do nothing about it. I was listening to one of the other Arsenal podcasts, if you don't mind me saying that, last week. And,
cool.
The Crystal Palace, they were talking about the Crystal Palace game. And one of the guests that they had on there, he was saying that he was with his mate and they've been in a pub and he thought it was hilarious because his mate was asleep in his seat for the first half. And then later on, they started talking about how bad the atmosphere was. And it's like, your mate was asleep in his seat, you know. People have got to take responsibility. Everybody who's in that ground, the tickets are horrendously expensive and, you know, we've all got our gripes with the stewarding and stuff like that, but people have just got to try and make a difference.
Absolutely.
I think we've lost our identity a bit as fans because, you know, obviously we've had the biggest change out of all the fans, you know, because of, you know, we went all Cito and the others have followed, but I think we've lost our identity. We used to be really, really loud fans and we're just trying to find it again and I think we should all work towards doing it but it seems like Ray is saying, it's like there's always excuses. But, you know, we were talking about the pricing. Like, I know that there is a link. The average season ticket holder is 44 years of age. The average silver member, I believe, is around 47 or 48. I can't remember the exact figure. So I think we need an injection of youth as well into the stadium. But where the club are looking at the money side of things, when is that ever going to happen? So for me, you know, we've got to find our identity. I know REDaction have got to keep on plugging and keep on doing what they're doing, but you're right, Robbie. We need to speak to the club. We need to talk about a number of things like the pricing, the stewarding, the section for the singing, the bars being so awful. I know there's better bars outside, but, you know, a bit of entertainment to get the fans in. Just little things here and there, just little tweaks. And I think it'll be the best ground in the country, but at the moment, it's REDaction banging their heads against the wall, trying to do everything, and we just found out there's just 6 or 7 of them managing it all. And in Dortmund, which was a great trip, there's thousands of people involved in that. There's not 1 or 2. You know, the club are involved, the board are involved, the staff are involved, the stewards are involved, the supporters clubs from different parts of Dortmund are involved. You know, so. You know, we need to, I mean, it can't be like the Germans, but I think we just need something similar, you know?
Exactly. I do think there's something to be taken from, you know, good initiatives that you see at other clubs. I mean, we do that in every walk of life. When you're in business, you want to see what your competitors or whatever are doing. You want to take their good practices and try and implement it here. But I understand what you're saying, Ray. If the club don't want to listen, you know, your hands are tied. I'm going to come over to you, Mo.
All right, so just a quick thing. I think what I'm going to have to do is really read the terms and conditions of the agreement that season ticket holders enter into when they buy that season ticket. My inkling will be that the club will have reserved that right to make changes to the seat. I think it will promise you a seat in the ground and not a specific seat in the ground. And on that basis, I think it is possible for a single section to be created and season ticket holders to be moved around. I think really what we need to do, AST, BSM, Arsenal Fan TV, is kind of a joint initiative to start putting pressure on and see how many people actually do this and join in with this initiative, whether it's a petition or however we do it. I do think we need to put a bit more pressure on the club and actually start doing that, because I am absolutely shocked to hear that there's 6 of you in REDaction. Just whilst we've been recording this, I've tweeted, I've said, recording the AFTV podcast with REDaction AFC now, have a guess how many REDaction members form the contingent on match days. And I've had guesses ranging from, I think people that know a bit too much. For example, one person said 5, another person said 3,500. I've had 650. I've had someone guessing 150 to 200 people, someone guessing 500 people. It's unbelievable when you're hearing people guessing in the hundreds that there's 6 of you. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to ask you this question anyway, but I think now is the perfect time. How do you get involved with REDaction, and how can you increase that number?
Well, get involved by just making some noise in the stadium. You know, it's as simple as that. I mean, you know, we're talking to the club and stuff, and we try and sort things out. And you know, the social media thing is very big for us. You know, we've really kind of taken that and run with it. And you know, Arsenal on social media is massive. You should see, you know, some of the numbers for you know, other clubs with, you know, their little groups and stuff. You're talking about 500-600 followers and stuff. But you know, you look at AST and BSM and REDaction, how many people they've got following. And really getting the messages out there and just looking out for, you know, before the match, the day before the match, the morning of the match, you know, this is what we're doing today. We need some people to come along and give us a hand. So, you know, get on the mailing list, look on the website, see what's going on. As far as turning up at the club and stuff like that, and turning up at the meetings, you know, whenever we need some, you know, some support for that, we'll be asking for it. But it's like, send us your ideas, you know. People are saying the atmosphere needs to be better. Dear REDaction, please improve the atmosphere. Cheers. You know. But
I mean, is Mo asking how can you be an active member within the REDaction?
Exactly.
I mean, have you got any plans to actually become your own membership? Like, you know, increase actually administrative members of your group.
We're all members.
Because you can't do 6. You just can't. I mean, 6. I mean, you've done a great job so far, but 6 is in. You know, you're going to struggle from here. You know what I mean? With just 6. Look, you know, surely.
I know what you're saying, yeah, but you know, the membership that we're part of is following the greatest football team in the world. So, you know, we all support the same team. So, you know, membership and membership cards and all that kind of stuff, it's not really something we're looking at. You know, people just got to get involved in getting a better atmosphere within the ground and come and help us out when we need your help. Bayern Munich is a perfect example. Spread the word. Tell everyone you know. Make an extra effort to get in there early. Follow the instructions on the card, by the way. You know, don't put it the right way up or back to front or upside down at the wrong time, because obviously that's not going to work either. So people just got to read the instruction that's printed on the card, and just, you know, follow the instructions and then just try and make a difference, basically.
Would it not be possible to liaise with the club in order to increase that REDaction allocation?
Well, you're kind of contradicting what I said there. You know, it's 6 people who sit in block 6. What are you talking about? You're talking about the area in that part of the stadium?
Exactly that, yeah. To say to the club that we want REDaction to be have a greater influence on the crowd and on the atmosphere, and we'd like you to work with us to prioritise us in having the seats around the existing area in order to grow that number from 6 to something substantial and something significant. Yeah,
you're kind of getting the wrong end of the stick there, really. Everyone who's in block 6, a lot of those people back in 2006, they applied to be in what was, you know, to be known as the red section or the singing section or whatever. And that area is almost completely locked down with season ticket holders in most of those seats. So every summer we're talking to the club and saying, look, how many non-renewals are there? How many spaces can we say are up for grabs in the area for people who want to come and get involved in that area? And you're literally talking 6 one year, 8 the next year, 7 the next year. It's completely locked down because not that many people move out of that area. So as we've been talking about for the last however many minutes, you want to try and move people around the ground and get all people together, but it's so locked down with season ticket holders and there's so little room to move. Even though there's all those seats in the lower tier, you can't really take a block or a long line of seats and say, right, there you go, put 40 noisy gobshite Gooners in there, you know, and they'll make a big difference. It's just locked down. You know, you look at a diagram when you're in the box office of all the seats in the lower tier that are a certain colour that are gold because there's a gold member that sits there. You know, there ain't many spots around everywhere where you could expand it. Yeah, you might find 2 seats there or maybe 1 seat there, but if you're trying to get 2 mates together into block 6, you know, the chances of them being seated next to each other is probably 1 in 1,000.
Well, I think the club really does need to kind of get a bit more involved and kind of prioritise you guys to allow you to grow in number. Because I think all it takes is for a few people to be like-minded together to then influence the others around them. And, you know, when you're lucky enough to get a chant going and other people support you and join you, then you see it filtering around the stadium, or at least around your block. So, you know, as G was saying, 6 is hard to really progress with. I will personally do whatever I can to become, you know, part of a growing number, I would hope. And I think we should work hard to make sure the club know that there's that desire to increase that. And I think we should be given a bit of priority. Or not, I say we, like I'm part of you, but, you know, REDaction should have a bit more priority there.
I think I'm just going to keep hammering the point that no matter where you sit in the ground, you know, you've just got to start making some noise. It doesn't have to be in Block 6. It doesn't have to be the lower tier. It doesn't have to be at the North Bank. People have just got to try and make a difference. And, you know, just going back to what Nordi was saying a minute ago about the average age of the goal member at home, yeah, it's high. It's far too high. I do wonder what it would be for the regular away travelling fans. You know, I would estimate it's probably something like mid-20s, which is an absolutely perfect demographic for what those guys do, because that is one amazing set of away fans. But I think it's on the way back, because what I'll say is, in the last couple of weeks when we've appealed for ideas and, you know, we've said, look, just get in touch with us, here's the email address. The amount of emails that we got from people who are junior gunners and young guns enclosure, you know, all these like, I'm 17, I'm 18, I'm 19, I'm 16, I go with my mate. Fantastic. And I just think it's just changing. If you look at those guys who go to the away games, you know, that demographic, that's exactly what we need in the home ground to make a difference. And I think it's on the way back. It might take a few years to change. We need a whole load of Arsenal season to get olders to kind of, you know, give up in their 70s and 80s and release a whole new load of gold memberships to, you know, to younger fans. And I think it's going to change. So I can see some light at the end of the tunnel there, because I think there's noisy Arsenal fans out there. At the moment, they can't get in the ground, but things are changing. It might only change by 2% a season or 5% or something like that. But I think there is light there, because a lot of young Arsenal fans get in touch with us and say, look, I sit in this part of the ground. You know, what can I do? I don't like the atmosphere, but I'm committed to making a difference. So, you know, that really fills us with enthusiasm.
I hope their incomes go up. But I definitely get what you're saying, Raymond, you know, and I really hope to see that come to fruition. Robbie, you wanted to jump in quickly?
You know, again, I just got to reiterate, I've got nothing but respect for REDaction guys and what you guys are trying to do. I know how hard it must be and how frustrating it must be for you guys. I just want to encourage you guys to keep up the work. And with your campaign that you're doing for this thing, if you send me over the details, we'll make sure that we'll push that out as well. Because it's, you know, it's just all these initiatives, anything that can help the atmosphere. I just want to get our club to be stopped known as a club that has such a poor atmosphere, because like you said earlier, it's not just us. I go to all the other grounds, and every single football club in the Premier League is suffering from a similar problem. It is just how football is changed, and you know, it's gonna need some sort of campaign. It's gonna need the will of a club as well to really get atmosphere back to the top of the agenda, because in recent times, it's not. It's all about, I mean, which is good. We all want to sit in a comfortable stadium. It's great. You know, we all want good hospitality, but we want, important part of football is the atmosphere. It is really important. And the real strange thing is the amount of foreign fans that we get, like, sending us messages at Arsenal Fan TV saying, you know, why are fans leaving early? Why weren't Arsenal fans singing more? You know, so, you know, there is definitely a will there to get the place. And I understand what Ray's saying. Some of the people that are complaining about it are the same people who are sitting on their hands. And the only way we're going to get, you know, I still think it's going to take an organised effort with a couple of sections, because, you know, when you have a mass crowd, people can lead them into singing. And I think that is the future. And that idea that Nordi came up with, where he said that the only end really where you could really create a new singing section is the clock in. I think that's a viable option, and something that, you know, could be explored as a way of creating a good atmosphere. I think that's a great idea if that is something that could be put into action.
Well, Yeah. Anybody else want to?
Yeah.
Go on, Nordi.
I mean, I think if you sit down and just spend 5 minutes and think about the clock end section, and the talk about youngsters who want to get involved and the young guns, and that people really want to make a noise. It's going to be a really hard sell to the club, because I believe that they really don't want this, and they don't want people together being loud, like youngsters next to the away supporters. So this is my fear, but the only viable solution, and obviously, if everyone sung, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But if we were to implement something, I think our biggest problem is the club are going to, won't allow it for the reason that it's next to the away supporters. So I hope we can win it, but that is my only one downside to the whole thing, because when we try to get close to the away supporters to create an atmosphere, the amount of security, the amount of stewards that are kicking us out, it was just unbelievable. It's like, I've never seen anything like it. So they are quite heavy-handed with the stewarding when there's people next to the away fans.
Cool. Great stuff. I think that kind of brings it very nicely to a nice conclusion. I want to thank all the everybody that came on tonight. That was Jay McKenna from Spirit of Shankly, Cliff Stott, the professor from Leeds University. I want to thank Nordi from BSM for coming on. Thanks for coming on, Nordi. Great stuff. Thanks for coming on. Also Raymond from REDaction Gooners.
You're welcome.
I hope. Great stuff. Really hope that we can get that message out to everybody. Everybody get in their seats early for Wednesday and create a fantastic atmosphere. Robbie, as always, it was good to have you on, mate.
Thank you very much.
And Moh, do you still hate Tottenham?
I hate Tottenham big time.
Great stuff. That's been the Arsenal Fan TV podcast special. My name is Giles, and I wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.